Good evening, free enterprise fans, and welcome to a very special community club race. We are officially, not quite on the highway to the Zemus zone for ZZ6, but we like to call this the on-ramp. A little bit of preparation for our tournament. Upcoming, we have Kyrios and Garen on stream with about a half dozen other racers or so in the backgrounds also racing this community race. My name is Vitasia, and I'm joined on the microphone tonight by Professor Renderer. Professor, it's been a long time. Always love working with you. How are you doing tonight?
It's great to work with you as well. I'm looking forward to this showcase here of ZZ6. I took a look at the flags. Interesting flag set compared to previous ZZ flags, and we'll see how this shakes out.
Absolutely. I think the way the tournament committee described this flag set is a return to a more challenging form. There's limited shops, limited loot, limited agility manipulation. There a lot of things are limited here, and it's a more challenging flag set than we've seen in for a couple of years yet. So really, I've been practicing these seeds. I know everyone else has been doing a lot of practice as well. Lots of folks in the community are diving in headlong, and it's great to see both new folks and returning friendly faces as well. This is our first on-ramp race that's taking place tonight. We have a lot of variable times in order to help folks, around the world at different time zones. The next community race is going to be this Thursday at midnight Eastern, so Thursday into Friday morning. And that race is also going to be right here on Free Enterprise as well.
And we are off.
Now, if we have an Eddie start and a Porum start, this might be about the worst start you could possibly think of right here.
Especially considering that you don't have any ways of doing agility manipulation. Well, please, not like easy to do agility manipulation. We don't have any curse rings for one.
Yeah, no curse rings. The only real agility manipulation is going to be, for Eddie, because Eddie is a hero, and it is the hero flag set. So Eddie's going to gain his experience no matter what. You cannot knock him down. He will continue to gain experience. You might be able to get away with, a ninja hat or a crystal ring here and there to manipulate some agility. And we already see in two different directions. Garen is looting the back of the Watery Pass. Meanwhile, Kyrios is diving right into Castle Ebland, where there are three, monster in a box chests in here, so you have to be a little bit careful. But the loot is a little bit better here.
Yeah, and that's been my general go-to whenever I play Free Enterprise seeds. Just scope out those monster in a box chests and see what, and just work around them from going from there.
Now, we already, Kyrios did just pick up something very nice. That was a dancing dagger, which I think is going to be our key for at least the first couple bosses. Put Eddie in the back row. He can throw that dagger and really make pretty quick work of at least the first couple bosses in, say, Antlion Cave and up on Mount Hobbs. I'm not quite sure what our starting gear was, but given that Kyrios got that dancing dagger and immediately left, I think that's all he was looking for to get going.
Yeah, and it makes it's a good starting equipment item, and as you mentioned, it's good for the early game bosses, especially considering the pairing of Edward and Porum. Like you mentioned, it's not a good start, so we'll take what we can get.
Absolutely. When as both runners are going up here, and it does look like both Kyrios and Garen are doing the Hobbs checks here directly. It is bonus round demist with a Sid. That is something nice to see right there.
It's always nice to see Sid in any situation. Just Sid's a good a tank, and it has a lot of power behind it in the early game. So good way to get some power at the very least.
Absolutely, and this demist is going to be almost done here. Looks like we're getting into some safety healing. That is 3 swings on Demus. I don't think we're going to get the 1 cycle on here unless Eddie can get this Dancing Dagger off. And he does. The 1 cycle is set.
And that is a key item waiting for Kyrios out in over by Iridia's mom.
Absolutely, in the Village Mist. It's always nice because if you find the D-Mist kind of in your natural course of everything, it certainly makes things a little bit easier. You hate to come across a roadblock where you get into a boss hunt sort of situation that it really completely changes the dynamic. And there's another Dancing Dagger, so certainly happy to see that right away. Meanwhile, we see Garen picking up a bunch of charm arrows and arrows of various kinds. Oh no, we have ourselves an early darkness right away.
That just opened up quite a bit of stuff.
It really did. That does open up the entire moon. That is another character check, at least on the moon. The big takeaway that folks have had in this particular tournament in a lot of practicing is what's called the Mac Giant grind. It's very similar to the D Machine grind that you see in the vanilla speed run of Final Fantasy IV and even in Free Enterprise, where you have someone who's able to cast weak on D Machines that just get summoned over and over. There's a special grind that you can do after you get a little bit of equipment, very similar to that, to summon Mac Giants instead, as long as you have the right equipment, to do something very similar. There's no Sirens, there's no Tella or Fusoya, so by the time you have access to weak, really you don't need a grind anymore anyway. So really, a lot of competitors have been struggling, and most of us are settling on that Mac Giant grind, and an early Darkness Crystal with a Sid certainly points in that direction.
Yeah, it does seem like, from how you're describing it, it's definitely an alternative to the D Machine grind, within the context of not having those weak casters like Fu and Tella. So it makes a lot of sense to go for this alternative grind and make this the primary grind for this situation. And it looks like we have a little bit of a comedy show hitting here over in Antlion Cave.
I mean, of all the places to see this isn't bad to see Golbez before you get a full party, before anyone can be knocked over. So I actually really like Golbez here. We were able to get Eddie hidden, so we can go ahead and unhide and Starveil up, and we'll be safe here. Meanwhile, Kyrios over here is going ahead and doing the Fabul defense, where we have the King and Queen of Ebland, which are invading their neighbors. Not a great place to see King and Queen Ebland. This is a relatively free fight. Hopefully you want to see this in a much more difficult location, but you'll take it wherever it's at.
And just like you drew it up, we have a Starveil out for Garen onto Edward, and then like let's support him, and we're just through this fight.
And there's our underground access with the Magma Key there. So great to see the Magma Key so early. There's, going through the list of objectives, every now and then you'll see 1 or up to 3 different objectives requiring that hook. None are on the table today, so nice to see that we're still not going to be forced to go down that hook route regardless.
Yeah, so finding this Magma Key here isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we don't have to worry about the hook route all that much regarding the state of the objectives. And Garen, for his troubles with getting through the comedy show, is a bandana.
Womp womp. That's okay, one of the interesting flag sets that we do see, and it has to do a little bit with the loot that we're seeing, not only in the treasure boxes, but elsewhere, is, we have the maximum tier 7 treasure. We also have a minimum tier 3, so we're not going to see any junk in anything that we end up looting. So seeing a bandana instead of a key item, where you're probably going to find bandanas in a shop or plentifully available elsewhere in the seed, it feels bad to get that right away.
Not to mention too, this is on T Pro shuffling, so a lot of the items a lot of the higher value stuff is pushed towards the later half of the game, instead of being on the front.
Now, I do see one thing on Garen's side that I'm sure Kyrios wishes he had, and I don't know if he does. That Earth Hammer, I don't know if that was from a little bit extra looting. That Earth Hammer is one of the weaknesses to that Mac Giant grind I mentioned earlier, and Sid is certainly one of the enablers of that grind. So that combined together is looking, we're just seeing doubly here. Kyrios also making the smart play, I think, going to the moon, checking this character at a bare minimum, saying, hey, I would really love a black magician or someone who could swing a holy sword, perhaps.
So Kyrios will go ahead and spot another Sid, and that's a hard reset there.
Yeah, that's a reset that's primarily out of frustration. We're more than likely going to have to come back up to the moon at some point. We already have the Darkness Crystal, and we do have 2 objectives that are gated past that interaction. So, yeah, you don't necessarily... It's not helping you right now, but I think you're going to eventually have to see that cutscene one way or the other, because I think the Vanilla White Spear and the Crystal Sword Altar are going to be in our future.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So whether Kyrios likes it or not, you'll still have to go through that cutscene. Garen will now receive the Darkness Crystal. And Garen is probably thinking, oh, okay, we got the moon available. Yeah, I'll probably wait until I get my Mac Giant grind going.
The interesting thing about this is it does tend to lead to a little bit more looting than the average seed, especially when you start out with 2 duds like Edward and Porum. You can be forgiven for doing a little bit more looting until you're comfortable. Meanwhile, we see what I would call a home run here on Garen's side. Over here in Baron, we do have a Dark Knight Cecil, which Cecil is always a win. Regardless of when you can get him, as far as I'm concerned. It's going to take a little bit of effort because we do have, he's conferencing with, as the community likes to refer to it as, Senator Crocodile.
Yeah, it's all gauntlet time. That's not, with this particular configuration, with the Senator Crocodile configuration, it's not that bad. So just 5-ish fights, and we'll be on our way to the next encounter.
Yeah, and Garen is set up actually really nice. He's using the free Thor rages that he gets because these enemies in particular, a lot of them have a lightning weakness, but he also has that Earth Hammer to do some other sweeping as he needs to. So Garen is actually set very well to complete this one. Meanwhile, Kyrios has foregone doing any more overworld checks and says, the better loot's in the underworld. I'm going to go into the underworld, and I can't blame him. There's a Thunderclaw and a Catclaw. It would be really nice if we had a Young pop up.
Yeah, the best, probably one of the better equipment items for our Karate Man. So, if we see a Yang, that's cool. We'll have the perfect weapons for them.
Well, and Young is one of those characters that, he's not done so well in some tournaments. The Omnidextrous tournament in particular, second Catclaw right away. But with this particular flag set, it seems like you're always going to get pretty high in levels. So Young's power has really certainly, is more beneficial in this particular tournament than in recent history. There's the Pan as well, so returning the pan to Yang's wife, that is an objective. That'll be just absolutely free. And we know that that second blue robe in the queen spot is going to be the water hag in addition to the dark elf in the king spot.
So we do have a fairly free fight ahead of us, all things considered. So that's a consideration for Kyrios as the K7 flag is turned on. This is an opportunity. Well, when the road presents itself to him, to go and get a summon item, a K7 item from a fairly free spot.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tough. We're going to need a few more levels, I think, because as free as that is, you just need to hit it 3 times. It is also incredibly fast, and right now will one-shot our entire party. Maybe 2-shot a backroad Sid with some decent armor on it, but it is a very punchy spot, and it is very fast.
Meanwhile, on Garen's side, the second half of the Baron Inn checks, it reveals an evil wall. Not necessarily a bad thing to see. You are on a time limit, though.
Absolutely. It does look like... Let's see. Okay, so we have the pan turn in here. Meanwhile, Garen is trying to keep everyone up. It's interesting because we don't get any experience here. Kyrios gets an Avenger from the Sylphs. That, hey, I would love to put that on my Cecil as soon as I get him. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah, that's a really good find from off of the pan spot. So when Kyrios does head over to Baron Inn, that is going to be one thing that Kyrios will want to put on at some point. And as far as Garen, speaking of which, Karen apparently has the legend sword that Cecil just so happened to happen on him, I guess, and just fell out. I don't know.
It's like, oh, is this the sword of Evil's Bane that has my legend written across it? Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay, Kyrios, after doing the turn-in for the Sheila checks, the first Sheila check ends up being an Earth Crystal, while the pan turn ends up just being a lightsaber. But the Earth Crystal is important because that's cave madness, or not cave madness completion right itself, but it's because we need Twin Heart. But we do have access to Zot's, which is still in the general area of cave madness, but that's another thing that Kyrios can do.
Yeah, it's interesting how these two runners have really gone in 2 different directions. Garen has not picked up the Magma Key yet, I don't believe. Well, no, he didn't just complete. He has avoided up to this point in time doing the Fabul defense, which, it's interesting. Some runners like to jump to Fabul very early because it's a great bit of experience for kind of a relatively easy fight. Other runners like to put it off, hoping to route all of Fabul together. Otherwise, there's 3 checks in there that you can kind of come back and forth to. We know where the pan is, so we're not going to be able to route everything together. But that one check has driven these 2 runners in completely different directions. One accessing the Magma Key early and being able to access everything underground and get the pan check rolling. The other really has focused on building the party out elsewhere. And now we have Cecil and unlocking his full potential up here on Mount Ordeals with a vanilla Mylan in Friends fight.
Yeah, good segue into that, because that is rather amusing to see the vanilla Mylan and Friends spot here. Nothing that our party can't really handle.
No, and this party really is pretty good at this point in time. We have Sid, who can really handle just about everything in the overworld at this point in time. Cecil, he's going to be fully online and activated. we know that there's going to be some good gear eventually for him. A little bit down the line, Kyrios has seen that he's going to run into it. And to be honest, with the pan being an objective and where it's located, I don't think there's any risk of Garen not finding that very, very quickly once he gets to the underground.
Garen triggers the 90%, the 10% HP script telling us, oh, my body, and that completes the fight.
Interesting here. Kyrios is, oh, this is interesting. He is opting to reset out. Says, oh yeah, I forgot. I had 1 HP from stepping on all of those poison tiles in the underworld. So it was leading to a little bit of a difficult fight. And he is opting and says, you know, I don't think this Cecil is going to be worth it. I am out. Now, we know that leads to Legend Sword, which is half of one of the first objectives. So if we find an Adamant early, that might come back and bite Kyrios a little bit. We'll just see. Time will tell. Every seed is a little bit different.
Yeah, and that could potentially end up here on Mount Ordeal as Garen is fighting this Ogopogo. Upon completion of this, will see what this key item spot leads to, but ultimately it will lead to Garen getting that Paladin Cecil online.
Paladin Cecil is very, very strong. There's no two ways about it. So Garen will have that online, plus have another key item. If this is a key item spot, oh, okay, Gyros is going to come back. So maybe not. He's not completely avoiding it. He was just trying to. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember seeing an Earth Hammer," and absolutely wants to sweep his way through. So.
Yeah, and with I don't see why you wouldn't. I would never take down or pass on a Cecil in any given seed in any given flag set when Cecil is available. So yeah, it makes sense to maybe if Kyrios was looking to try and get powered up just to do another reattempt at this. And yeah, this is what we're gonna be seeing right here. Kyrios heading back into the center crocodile fight. Garen only gets a Sylph summon, but that's fine. We will be seeing Paladin Cecil coming online anyway. We see Wyvern, interestingly enough.
Oh, this is horrible. This is horrible with a glare.
Oh, ooh, okay. Yeah.
Luckily, okay, it was still. And now he's like, okay, time to throw my dancing dagger because that will be more consistent damage. I think this will take maybe one more dancing dagger to get through.
Oh, that could have gone worse if it was something. If that Witchburn rolled something worse than glare. Now, ideally, it would have been nice to see retreat come out, but as it stands, glare with Tella, or sorry, not Tella, Eddie, with being our hero. That's ooh, okay, yeah, that bites.
I'm actually going to be writing that one down. I'm trying to do better as a commentator about taking notes and asking people about stuff so that I don't forget about it. So yeah, Glare Wyvern with Solo Eddie, that's got to give just about any runner a heart attack, I would think.
Oh no, yeah, that is a fairly not kind combination.
And now that Garen has completed that, he says, all right, well, time to get everything ready for the last check that he really has to make. This is going to be the Magma Key, and it's going to lead to great things for Garen eventually. The interesting thing is his team has enough levels now He has the darkness crystal. Once he goes through and gets into the underground, it's possible he could take a swing at that water hag at the Asura spot with the levels that he's going to have. He's going to have, a higher level Sid. He's going to have a Paladin Cecil who he can throw some decent armor on to be able to take a hit or two. I think Garen might be able to save a little bit more time just in the routing of things.
Oh yeah, and that helps considering Garen took a bit of time to get to the Fabul defense, and upon seeing that magma key, your first instinct is to head down there because the moon might be a little bit too scary for us at the moment. But we're fine enough going down to going underground, and Garen will see what is over in the cave, the land of monsters, from there. Garen gets through the King Queen emblem. We'll soon see the magma key come out.
Yep, and it'll be really interesting to see what route Garen decides, because he certainly has the power that he doesn't have to prioritize. He doesn't have to prioritize going immediately to that Fey March for the freebie. At the time that Kyrios did, there was nothing much else that he can do except for get the freebie. Originally planned on just doing at least the Sheila 1 check, but was able to spike the pan and do that particular routing, which has led to quite a bit in terms of the Earth Crystal there. I got to imagine, though, Garen has the power to be able, if he wants to do Dwarf Castle, he can do Dwarf Castle. He's got the power if he wants to take a shot at Lower Babel, at that boss. He could probably take that shot at the Lower Babel as well. That said, we've hinted at it a couple times, and I'm looking over the objectives and I'm realizing that completing the Giant of Babel is actually on the objective list as well. If our runners are proficient and comfortable with the Mac Giant check, as soon as they have the equipment, a couple axes between Sid and Cecil, I got to imagine that's looking pretty attractive before long.
Oh no, yeah, that is a play that can be made. You're already on the Giant upon doing the Mac Giant grind, so it would make sense just to go through the Giant of Babel, take care of that, and get the objective completed. Garen is now going to be raising the Lunar Whale.
Meanwhile, over on Kyrios' side, he has the Cecil now and going to be making the climb. Should be relatively straightforward as well. We'll see if we can see Kyrios' blood pressure spike with this particular glare as well.
In a sense, you have a bit of a combo from Storm with this vanilla Mylon and friends, but eventually this will reveal itself to be yeah, that's the we already see what happened with over on Garen's side.
Yeah, so Garen has certainly raised the whale, but said, hey, I'm more interested in checking out the underground first. I believe he's setting himself up. He's checking the weapon shops. I think he's probably looking for another axe for Cecil in order to be able to complete that Mac Giant grind. We know there's plenty of axes in the underworld.
Yeah, and this is something too that Garrett might be looking for axes while the taking into account the pro randomization for shops. So this is something that Garrett might be just taking a peek at before finding heading down, because the main thing about S Pro is that it's supposed to be gated behind what it does is it's supposed to be gated behind keys. The more powerful stuff are gated behind key items. So it makes sense for Garrett to take a look at this just to see if there's anything like just some acts, not like the best acts, but like some acts to hold Garrett over until looking into further shops. But alas, nothing notable copped up over on Agard.
Interesting. We know that there's a couple of claws there if we find a Yang, but Garen, different people have different rules about where they loot, and it's always interesting to see different runners and what they end up looting out. Some people open a few chests along the way, others are more strategic, others are saying, hey, if it's on the way, might as well open it. Different looting strategies lead to different outcomes.
Kyros makes it through this Ogopogo spot, and eventually we'll see what we've been fearing what's going to happen over on Kyros' side.
No, I'm cackling at this point. I'm just cackling. That's all I'm doing.
Oh no, it's a bit. Don't get me wrong, it is amusing, but it is still kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, Kyrios is a longtime community member. It's certainly one of the top runners out there, I would say, in the community. Can beat just about anyone that you want to, and he was safety saving. So I think that lets you know everything you need to know about how rough he expects this potential fight to be, knowing, hey, okay, it's just a self summon, but this boss could be rough.
Yeah, so here's Curious. So first instinct is just to throw out that dancing dagger. And now Curious sees the glare.
And I mean, luckily the magic attack is really, really low here. So even if you get a glare, yeah, he can survive it. But it's always stunning to see a glare a little bit. Yeah, and as predicted here, Garen at about 31 minutes is giving this water hag a shot. It is a very speedy water hag, and as you just saw, it's quite punchy.
Oh yeah, it's there's one hit, but by the time Cecil has already taken the hit, taken the one swing, already like 3 party members are down. And yeah,
you gotta have a lot of defense stacked up for that. And Garen says, nope, I'll be back for that later. It was worth a shot. I really think it was worth a shot. Beauty and Discovery is Water Hag throwing chunkless, just targeting that, just whoo.
So Garen has decided to to go ahead and take a dive over to the mist cave upon grabbing the pan out of the land of monsters. So it's going to go ahead and just do that now, and we'll have both Sheila checks on standby.
All right. Meanwhile, Garen is going to complete his objective, so he is also going to be given the Earth Crystal very shortly, as well as that lightsaber. Meanwhile, this is an early check that has become more and more as kind of an afterthought. This Antlion Cave. Again, it's Golbez, but Kyrios saving it for a little bit, really waiting until he has the party to be able to exit out or reset out quickly if he wants to. And instead is going to find a comedian that's going to stretch this out because of the bigger party size.
Yeah, on top of, like, as it is, you already have the long enough, you already have the script of Golbez that takes up quite a lot of time. And I guess with the Avenger Sword, it also makes it a lot more long of a time, because it seems like Kyrios have to take that off. Granted, this is the first, like, Golbez. Kyrios wouldn't have known this would have been Golbez, so has to deal with this either way. So they'll have Golbez. So the Shadow Dragon is going to go ahead and do a random target to do its consume attack. Demolish, same thing. What I'm trying to say is it just takes out one of the party members.
Yeah, and it's Sid. Sid already has plenty of levels. We don't have to worry about him hitting certain HP thresholds. I mean, Edward would have been nicer, but Edward was also hiding, so that's perfectly fine. And I think Cecil is going to get enough swings in that it's not even going to matter.
Yeah, so Garen's going to go ahead and go into the treasury and see what we can pull from there.
Hey, Poison Axe, White Lance. This is looking reasonably good so far. I mean, unfortunately, we ran into the inventory boss. Going through his Zeus gauntlets, crystal rings. Fantastic. You know, all told, crystal ring, great. Poison Axe, we know we're going to need one of those if we're going to be doing that Mac Giant grind, which is fantastic. All told, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that particular. I'm going to call that like a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, the Zeus Gauntlet being a really, like, one of the highlights of that treasury, along with that crystal ring. So yeah, not a bad treasury, all things considered.
Yep, at this point, Garrett and Kyrios have pretty much cleared the exact same things and are now neck and neck, both doing the Earth Crystal check. I think the only thing Kyrios has done is he's gone to check the character up on the moon, but reset out of it. Garen has not done that. And Garen is taking this fight here in this in the treasure for this monster in a box. Meanwhile, Kyrios is not. It was just a White Lance. So otherwise, these two are neck and neck. This is as exciting as Free Enterprise gets, folks.
We'll see 2 character checks here on the Zot dive. We'll see 2 bosses. and then we'll see a key item coming out of this. You're gonna go ahead and take a safety save and see that what the first boss is gonna is. It is a Dr. Luggage.
Yep, getting this fantastic Avenger sword equipped on Cecil. Remember, it is a two-hander, so you cannot have that shield equipped. Meanwhile, Cecil zerked up. We're going to zerk up looks like our Cid as well. And yeah, we're going to let Edward throw a dancing dagger as well. Sure, why not?
Yeah, we're pretty much all set for this fight.
I gotta wonder, is Garen still on a slower battle speed from when he tried Waterhead? Because it sure feels like he's on a lower battle speed right now.
It seems like that's the case, because Kyrios has already gotten through the first phase of Dr. Luggage. Oh yeah, it definitely feels like it now. Just looking side by side on the second fights, second phase now.
And in this kind of side by side race that we have, that is gonna be make a little bit of a difference. Although Kyrios had an unfortunate curse thrown on his Cecil right there.
Yeah, and that threw Dr. Luge into the skeleton form, and also resulted in poison being applied to the party.
Well, there's our Yang, if we wanted to see it, and it does look like we have our Dark Knight Cecil that's going to be waiting for us, by the way, if we get to that point in Dwarf Castle. That's going to be relatively free. That spot does not hit hard. It does move a little bit slower. You might be able to out-damage it, honestly, because it has some low HP. But we also have a white mage here. Ooh, what do you do with this party right now?
In all honesty, I think you take the Rosa here. Yeah, you take the Rosa here. We don't really need Yang at any point. We already have your white mage. We have a lot of we have Zerkers on standby, so you're probably going to go for a Zerker build plus power couple. Interestingly enough, Kyrios opts to forego the Cid, and which makes sense because Kyrios actually does have cat claws for Yang to wield, as well as a bandana. So there's a lot more credence into Kyrios taking that Yang over someone like Cid. So whereas Garen, because Garen did not see those cat claws upon heading down the Fey March, it led to Yang being taken out and leaving Cid in its place, while Kyrios, having that knowledge, meant, okay, I can just take this Yang. We don't even need Cid.
Well, and it's interesting because both Cid and Yang can be used for that Mac Giant grind, as we said. Yang, as long as you have like a Cat Claw, Thunder Claw, which we know we do have. Garen is opting, I think, instead for an Earth Hammer or an Axe, which again, just as good. So I think this is more of a play, knowing that if either of them will work for it, Rat Tail there as a reward. I think this is a play knowing that Yang is capable of doing more damage once you get to Zemus. Sid is probably from in a short term, like in this mid game, is superior. But since they both can do the same thing with the Mac Giant grind, I think I kind of like the Yang play. But again, you got to have the equipment to make it worthwhile. Curios opened the boxes to make it worthwhile. Garen missed out on one of those two cactus.
So if that Curious, we'll see the rat tail soon, while Garen will do some more shop checking.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I like the double white mage party setup. I really do, especially in this particular flag set where, yes, there's like star veils are available in shops, so we can't say all J items are deleted, but all the good ones are. We don't have any sirens, we don't have any Bacchus wines, we don't have any hourglasses, we don't have any coffins. So having a double white mage setup so that, hey, if you have 3 Zerkers like a Cecil and a Yang / Sid, and hopefully a Spoonword by that point in time, you have not only the Avenger Sword to be able to, get that going, but also a couple of white mages to cast Berserk for you.
Yeah, so it does also does ultimately work out in the end to have the double white mage plus Zerkers for you to be able to have Zerk be applied to the party, as well as having Zerk on standby for in the case of Avenger Cecil. Curios has encounters on.
He's setting up Mac Giant, is what he is. There is, for those of you who are not familiar with Mac Giant setups, there is a step guide that is available over in our Discord to set it up to where you do your random encounters outside of Baron. You take an additional number of a few encounters based on the number of steps from your first encounter, and then you turn them back off, run to the giant, and then turn encounters back on, and the next encounter will be the searcher that summons the Mac Giant. So Curios is doing kind of the textbook. We're going to do our Mac Giant setup and grind, because he's ready to go. His Yang also is only level 12, and I think he might be 5 levels under the median to get a slingshot off of this, which would really put him into a high power situation.
Meanwhile, Garen is going to take a stop over at the Dwarf Castle, knowing that the Gilbert spot is Dark Knight Cecil. I was looking to see what the other half of it is, and it is the Elements fight. This is probably looking to have be a character check, because Garen's party is pretty much set.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Garen's party is set. He saw the Dark Knight Cecil and said, hey, we're probably going to be good to go here. Problem is that, that's looking real dangerous, especially for a Dark Knight Cecil that is going to come in. I think we need to get a cure, some sort of curative item off immediately.
Yeah, as soon as this fight starts, we're gonna Garen will have to take a encounter here. Oh, okay. This might have changed a bit of things. There is a Quake Kid, and with him, Garen is saying, yeah, we're just gonna roll with Palin, but considering the amount of damage that he took from elements, Yeah, that's gonna be a reset. But Gieran's intention is to pivot from one Mysidia twin to the other, is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that appears to be the case. I think he just was not set up in a good position. That is a very doable fight once you have the HP to get through it.
Okay, this is a much better HP pool for Gieran's party upon starting up this fight with Dark Knight Cecil.
Worth noting over here, Kyrios in the middle of this Mac Giant grind, he is here at a relatively low level. He happens to have the characters who can certainly dish out the damage. That Zeus Gauntlet also is great protection for Cecil against giant damage, and hey, that's giant is giant damage. So, you know, he's in a relatively safe spot, but it takes some setup.
All right, Garen has now taken the three waves from Dark Knight Cecil, and that is going to be a completion of that fight. So we'll see what Garen gets from this key item from the Dwarf Castle as Kyrios is continuing this back giant grind. I'm not gonna
ribbon. I mean,
I'm not gonna say no to it, but there could have been better things to pull from that spot.
Now I agree. I mean, you're a little bit disappointed. You'll take it. Someone will equip it. Unfortunately, that Palom didn't gain any of the experience from that particular location. But he did say, "Hey, I am happy to slingshot a black mage to be able to do some, you know, looks like he's setting up his Mac Giant grind as well."
Yeah, it's about time we it's just about time for Garen and to pretty much join Kyrios and do this back giant grind. He's got the equipment to do it, and we're looking at a good position for Garen at this point. So, and eventually, I mean, both of them will have to do Giant of Babel anyway. Now, you can't put it off much longer especially when you're doing a Mac Giant grind. You gotta do it. So set up the Mac Giant grind. You'll have enough levels to get through giants for another objective, and then that should help pave the way for the rest of the game.
And while things are maybe not quite as exciting as both runners are going to be doing this Mac Giant grind, worth pointing out, you know, this is, of course, our on-ramp to the Zemus Zone 6 tournament that will start, you know, later this summer. we are on the on-ramp to ZZ6. There are 6 community races. This is the first of 6, just to help people get adjusted, because this is a little bit more difficult of a flag set than we've had in recent tournaments. So if you're interested or would like to test your chops, feel free to join us over on the Discord. We have the next race is going to be this Thursday at midnight Eastern time, Thursday going into Friday. So we'd love to see some other folks in the community if later times are more what you need. The races next week are going to be on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. And then the following week will be on Wednesday the 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then it's Saturday on June 29th at 10 p.m. Eastern. So we have a variety of different times to try to get as many people involved as possible. So if you haven't joined us over in the Discord yet, feel free to come on over. We'd love to have you. Also, to point this out in the community, if you ever wanted to be interested in joining us here in the broadcast booth, either doing what I'm doing here and talking, doing what our wonderful trackers are doing. Zaldi is currently helping us with tracking. Neobari is our restreamer, also doing quite a bit of work in the production booth as well. We all are looking for additional help for the restream team, not just for these community races, but for the upcoming tournament. We'd love to have you. We certainly, if you've ever wanted to dip your toe in, we'd love to have you on. So join us over on the Discord. Start asking questions. You can ping any of the restream leads, any of the tournament leads, if you ever have any questions. We just love to have you over there. And it's a super cool community nonetheless.
Bring in a question from the chats. As far as who's quote unquote leading, it's kind of hard to tell, really. It's both Kyrios and Gurren are in good positions. They obviously has different builds going for them. Kyrios having a more Zerk heavy playstyle, while Kyrios having a Zerk heavy playstyle, while Gurren is looking to have some Black Mage capabilities in that Pala. So I'm not really. I don't know if there's really a good definitive answer to the question of who's leading, because I would say they're both in equal footing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth pointing out Garen does have one more check over Kyrios than Kyrios in the Dwarf Castle check, which isn't a short check, worth pointing out. That said, Kyrios is getting close to ending his grind here on the Mac Giants, and as soon as he's done with his grind, it's just going to start blazing at that point. It's going to go very fast. Garen is trying to set up and find his grind. He's trying to do the Mac Giant grind. The difference was Kyrios took a little bit of time beforehand to set it up using the step counter resources that we have in the community. Kyrios is kind of going at it without doing the step grind. I don't want to use an inappropriate term right now because this is a family-friendly stream, but he's just kind of going at it and hoping to run into the encounter randomly, which is not always the best solution. You see that Garen is having to run from a lot of battles. He hasn't found that specific searcher that summons the Mac Giant quite yet. This is exactly why the community has done the parsing, has broken things down, and has those step guides, simply because that's the fastest way to go about it.
Yeah, it is interesting to see Garen effectively going for a brute force approach of getting the particular searcher. I'm not sure if Garen is familiar with the step count that's for a Mac Giant grind. But if in other ways, it seems like Garen may have found it.
Yep, there it is. Meanwhile, you see over here, Cecil gaining 28 levels, so he's Porum gaining a whole lot. Let's see, how high is we going to get our Porum up to? Edward gains 21, Yang gains 30. That was quite a few levels. We are in our mid to low 40s now at this point in time. That is plenty of levels to go ahead and finish everything off that we could possibly want. Keep in mind that we still have a lot of objectives that we have to clear out yet. So that's not all the experience that we're going to get for this particular seed. Garen is also going to be setting things up. He's going to be going for a little bit higher of a giant grind because he's trying to get his Palom to nuke in order to be able to roll things as quickly as he possibly can. So both runners are going to be, once they're done with this grind, it's going to move very, very, very fast.
Okay, so with Kyrios now having complete the Mech Giant grudge, this is enough for Kyrios to go ahead and start the two bosses here on Giant of Babel, that being the Elements spot and the CPU spot. And okay then.
I mean, it's free-ish. Yeah, throw your... Oh gosh, this is going so fast.
Yeah, this is what I'm a little bit uncertain about. Rosa does get the wall onto Cecil, but that Mega is already gonna come out, and that's only gonna do like a small dent into Bahamut's damage, or into its health as it's taking down the health of the element spot.
Okay, Garrett is doing an interesting setup over here, and I feel like I have to point it out here because this is really kind of clever. He has zerked up his Cecil with his poison axe and his Sid with his earth hammer, so they are doing lots of damage, and they are just going to town on these Mac Giants, and it's going very, very quickly. He has also set it up to he's casting Blink on the Searcher. So if they swing on the Searcher, they're not doing a whole lot of damage. He's only initiating the new Mac Giants by throwing the Thor Rages. So he's pushing out a lot of damage, a lot more damage on the Mac Giants and getting through them much faster than Kyrios did. But he's protecting his Searcher, who's the source of summoning the Mac Giants, to make sure that the fight doesn't end prematurely. That's really clever, and I really felt that needed to be pointed out.
Kyrios about to have another Mega Nuke wave coming through. Although Cecil and Porum's wall had expired, so Rosa's gonna have to do another life cast to bring one of them up. Porum is the one to be put up first, but that timer is going down really, really fast. So any missed second is going to be pretty. It's almost going to be fatal, but that's another Mega Nuke reflected.
Yeah, this is taking a little bit of time on Kyrios' side. It's a little bit rough. He's getting through it though. I think he's under control. So he'll get through this. It's just taking a little bit of time.
Plus, this also is doing Avengers what Cecil can do with an Avenger sword, and just putting out as much damage as possible before the Mega Nuke cast comes out, which takes up most of the damage, and that is the Bahamut's down.
All right, so Kyros is down. Interesting, his Yang didn't get any of that experience, who really could have used those levels. The more levels, the merrier for him. His Eddie is still going to gain those levels as the hero for this particular flag set. Meanwhile, Garen is still doing his grind.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Yang get some of the levels, but considering the circumstance of having a really fast ATB counter at a high battle speed, there probably wasn't enough time to get more than 3 party members up at that moment. So we'll probably see more. There's still plenty of XP to be found as Kyrios is going to head into the CPU fight with an Odin.
Now, this is a very punchy Odin, but luckily we do have that Thunderclaw. This is going to be interesting when we see Garen get to it, because Garen won't have a Thunderclaw-enabled person to be able to really dish out the high damage on Odin. But Kyrios is going to get through this relatively quickly, although it feels like Odin zeroed in on his weakness immediately.
Yeah, and that's going to result in a cast coming out from an live cast coming out for Yang, but the sword is already raised.
Yeah, we'll see. Did he safety save?
He did safety save, yes.
Woo. Okay, this is going to be a little bit difficult. It's absolutely not free. Getting a Thunderclaw early on will certainly help. Meanwhile, we see over here, Garen is finished up with his grind. His Palom is currently gaining all the levels. Let's see. Stone, Psych, Fatal, Weak, Media. There's Nuke.
And really, that's all you really would need. Just at that point, enough levels to get Palom up to Nuke. So that is a completed Mag Giant Grade in a way that's was probably what Garen was expecting us to see, is getting that Palom up to Nuke.
Meanwhile, Garen is going to try his hand at this Bahamut. Okay, Kyrios is through the Odin fight.
And that will be the Giant of Babel objective completion over on Kyrios' side after this cutscene. And we would like to see Kane here, but this isn't omnidexterous, and our party's already well equipped after this Mad Giant, so Kane will not be joining us anytime soon.
Nah, you're just a little bit late showing up.
So for now, Kyrios will now make his way up to the moon. and there's with the levels necessary. Of note, Curios did go up there at the pretty early on in the seed, but opted to skip to reset upon seeing the Sid that is on the lunar subterranean throne. So this is a cutscene that Curios will have to rewatch.
Meanwhile, we have Garen on this Bahamut fight. Looks a little bit more under control. I think he lowered his battle speed to be able to get into this, so it's really doing pretty well. Meanwhile, yeah, we're gonna say no thank you to that Sid, and Curios is on his way. Will be in. Yeah, I think it makes logical sense to when you have the Darkness Crystal. There are a ton of objectives to do up here anyway. 2 that are required: Vanilla White Spear and Vanilla Crystal Sword. And while you're up here, you know, we're looking to get 6 out of the 8. So we have the Vanilla White Spear, we have the Crystal Sword, and we've already done Return the Pan and complete the Giant. So depending on what we end up finding up here, this could lead us to other objectives that we have to complete. You know, a Baron Key would be fantastic, Luca Key, the Harp, or the Adamant Rock are all items that we are looking for. So there's 4 different items that we could find. We only need 2 of them. So if we get really lucky and just go 2 for 2, this could be a very fast seed indeed.
Oh yeah. So Garen is through the elements fight.
To be sure, that elements fight is considered just one of the most difficult spots in the entire game, just from the sheer amount of health that could be at that particular location. It can be rough no matter, depending on what fight is there. And Bahamut, with a countdown timer and moving as fast as he wasn't an easy fight. So being able to get through that, we're plenty ready for Zemus at this point. And look at this. Garen, you know, we mentioned did not have a Thunder Claw, but he says, hey, remember what I bought earlier when I was relying on my Rosa to do damage? I have a bunch of lit arrows. Plus some nukes, you know, just... that's fine.
Palms down. Took quite a bit of a beating there, but Odin is still standing. But that newcast should also this newcast should hopefully. Oh no, that's just 6 down. Never mind. That newcast did quite a lot of damage before, even before the sword was raised. So we're good.
Yeah, all told, I think Garen and Step Lively, I think you mentioned it earlier in chat. Garen certainly felt like he had a more difficult time setting up everything going into the Giant. However, the grind itself was a little bit faster on Garen's side, and getting through all of these bosses was a little bit faster on Garen's side. So really, it's going to be a pretty tight race. We know that ribbon came from the Dwarf Castle, which is the only check that Garen has up on Curios. Otherwise, Curios did just blast through that Crystal Sword altar. It was the Kaipo guards from the looks of it. So, and it was just the package. So it's another key item for the pile. Not that we need it, But certainly Kyrgios is putting in a lot of really fast work here right now.
Incoming White Sphere Altered fights for Kyrgios. It is a turtle.
Honestly, for if you have the Yang here, Ice and Thunderclaw, just to make sure you're always hitting a weakness. This is one of the reasons the Thor Rages are here and are included in one of the kits. Kenyatso can be absolutely terrifying depending on where he pops up. This is a relatively low HP spot, so maybe we'll get through this relatively soon. He is pretty punchy, but luckily it's relatively low HP, and certainly we have all the levels and all the gear that we could possibly need. So we're in a good position, even after resetting one, to just say, I'm good, and let her fly from here.
Yeah, so this is a very stable fight for Kyrgios. So Kyrgios is now in shell phase. So this will be finished relatively soon.
Meanwhile, Garen is on his way to what we know is going to be a relatively easy fight up on the Crystal Sword altar with the Kaipo guards. And just because we can, we're gaining a couple levels. And that's nice to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Although at this point, although I guess, okay, so back rowing, this is going to be a spoon pick. And he's going to go ahead and become another berserker.
That is nice to see. You know, when you have an Eddie hero, you still want him to be able to do something worthwhile. Garen showing us the benefits of having a black mage in the party, using stone to just get through that free fight very quickly. And I take it there was nothing in that altar, though, because I looked away for half a second. Oh, no, wait, spoon. That's right. It was just like a spoon. I was just...
Yeah. So, looking at another room here, curious on Leviathan in this ribbon room.
Yeah, and this is going to be relatively straightforward. It's, you know, his wave attack does percentage-based damage, 25% of the total health, of your max health. And between that and, you know, we have the elemental claws, Yang is really showing his power that he has and is doing a lot more work, dare I say, than Paladin Cecil.
Kyrgios is through this Leviathan.
Yep, this is not necessarily an objective, but, you know, some key items located here. That's the hook. That will at least unlock our ability to turn in the rat tail. So, other than that, we have the Murasame altar, the Masamune altar, and the Bahamut, or Cave Bahamut, or as the community likes to say, Cave Value, left up on the moon. It'll be interesting if there's any other route divergence, because both runners are kind of on a straight line path right now. and doing very, very well. I think Garen, with a different party setup, can get through different bosses a little bit faster, but the Punch Mage is certainly keeping Kyrios just a half step ahead right now.
Masamune altar is pale dim, so Joy, slow times.
I mean, you have 3 Zerkers who are doing non-elemental damage. You know, and you have 2 white mages to cast a Zerk. At this point, I think you just let it fly.
Yeah, this shouldn't be that bad. But slows are will cut into some of the time. Slow cast will cut into some of the time there, but I mean, the controller is down for Kyrios. It's just a matter of waiting until Pale Dim fades away.
I got to imagine that we're going to see Garen probably stepping over and doing the, you know, the other fight here, the other chests here shortly. So he's again in kind of a straight line path and only about 1 check behind, and these are going very, very fast. I think what's going to end up happening is Kyrios and Garen will have a couple of objectives to do once they get back down to Earth. Rat Tail turn in. I can imagine there being a tower key or something like that. I think we're going to see some divergence once we get to that point where they both return to the blue planet. And I think that's where we're going to see kind of things go in different directions. See, there's the tower key that I just mentioned. I'm a witch. Burn me. But I think they're both going to still follow the same path here. They're both going to do the Mura altar after the Masa altar, and then they're going to do okay, value, and then they're both going to go to the moon. If there's divergence when they go back to Earth, and one person spikes something more valuable than the other, I think that's where we're going to find the difference in the race.
One thing to point out too, with that tower key, there might be some consideration for dwarf castle. Well, it may not be a high priority because of the tower key. It is in the relative area of Lower Babel. Garen has already completed the dwarf castle. Kyrios has yet to take a look at that, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, and here's something that's really, really interesting. Kyrios looks like he says, there's 2 more checks up on the moon. I have a few more checks down on the blue planet. I have my levels. Let's go back to the blue planet. This is really interesting. This is a really gutsy play by Kyrios here. So he's not going to check Mura Altar and Cave Value. He says, I have a tower key. I have a rat tail turn in. I have Dwarf Castle, I have Top of Tower, and I have some summon. I have one of the 2 summon spots. No, both of them, because he hasn't done either of the summon spots yet. So there's more checks on the blue planet. He says it's worth coming back down here to check.
Yeah, so Kyrios will go ahead and take a look at this rat tail with this consideration in mind.
Oh, wow. Oh. That's huge. That is huge. That's the Baron key. So we do have, that's 2 checks, one of which is an objective in checking the basement throne. That is, hey, you know, we say it all the time in randomized races, whether it's free enterprise, whether it's Link to the Past, whether it's any randomizer. It's not just about the route that you run, it's about running a different route than your competitor. And if you're going to take some gambles and opt to fade certain locations that are in the obvious route, like we said up on the moon that these runners have run, you can make a jump if you make the right gamble. In this particular case, this was the right gamble.
Yeah, and Kyrios is just gonna make a beeline for that Baron Castle now. It is the objective. Do your objectives. Kyrios is gonna stay true to that ward and just head down to that Baron Castle right away.
Now, Garen's not out of the race, absolutely. If he follows the more traditional route, I mean, keep in mind, he has half a forge, so if he finds the Adamant Rock, that's going to be something. And if he finds the Twin Harp as well, that can be something as well. So, if Kyrios's checks lead him, he gets one objective, but he has no idea where the others are, and he ends up having to go back to the moon, this is all moot. But it's certainly a good percentages play for Kyrios right now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for Kyrios in this consideration, and having making the call to go for the blue planets over Mura Altar and K value, whereas Garen is making the more just the general play of just staying on the moon until everything's all complete. Kyrios will have one objective over Garen, and it would be something to note until we reach our final objective condition. So Kyrios will go ahead and go onto this Baron throne. It is a Karate Man.
And this is a free fight if you have Paladin Cecil. Like, I know we already have all the levels, but hey, let's have Cecil. He has the kick, he has the second swing, and then as soon as that karate at least has queued up that second kick, as soon as he swings, ouch, script, dead.
Only gets a hair and robe out of it. That's fine. That's an objective completed.
Yeah. Now I have to imagine we're going to set ourselves up to go ahead and complete Baron Castle and hope we get another one of our key objectives. I think we're going to stay on the blue planet because there are so many other objectives that we can do on the blue planet. It is statistically the quote-unquote right play when you're trying to minimize the cutscenes between the two. Meanwhile, Garen at the Mura Altar, just a power shirt. Okay, so that doesn't help, but we do have K value over here to do as well.
I mean, don't get me wrong, power shirt ain't a bad thing, but we already have the levels for it, so it's not really that useful. So we're just setting our sights on K value instead. And as we mentioned it over on Garen's side, at least on Garen's side, Gyros had knocked out Rubicante in the over on the throne where Kainazo occupies. Hey, look, there's another Rosa.
Dupe Rosa there. So we will see what the key item is located here very shortly. We do have our randomized items over here. Okay, so this is really interesting. We have an Asura at this particular spot. This is going to it would, under normal circumstances, slow things way down. But at the same time, I think we have a white mage who can cast wall, so you don't necessarily have to life lock or slow things down. There's go mode.
Yeah, that's a Twin Heart pickup. That is go mode for Kyrios, and making that statistical play working out in Kyrios' favor. And now that's good. That will lead Kyrios over to Cave Magnus. Just making a beeline for that now.
Yep. And of course the free enterprise randomizer community, we do have a nice little Easter egg for our heart music here that we like to randomize. There's a lot of different songs that are part of the randomization here. So Curios is going to treat us to this as he is in Go mode, and it's wonderful because this is a last key item, and he has the pass to immediately be able to start his Zemus fight right there in Troya.
Meanwhile, Garen is working through this Ashura fight, but as I mentioned, it's Curios already on this dark elf cutscene. It'll be a matter of just waiting the full script out. There probably is not going to be enough ways to take out his party to get to stop the script midway. So Curios is going to have to take the whole cutscene as it is. Meanwhile, as that's happening, we are probably going to be taking a bit of a short rest to let our resident DJ Spoony B give us some nice tunes from the harp. So stick around, listen to some tunes, and we'll be back to talking about stuff in just a little bit.
No, and with that, I think our community determined that was Illusion to Gaia final boss theme, but it was Blink and You Miss It. Meanwhile, Kieran did have the pink tail, which drove him over. And by the way, all of that, the Luca cave was locked behind that particular run as well, so couldn't have even found that somewhere else. It would be, certainly would be a story if, hey, that adamant rock was also locked behind the sealed cave as well.
Yeah, so but as far as we're concerned, we don't really need to worry about sealed cave anytime soon, because we already have all 6 objectives. We got a crystal. We are heading back to Troya, and we're going to be heading into our final boss. As our Z flags are being thrown out in the chat, and I'll make it as quick as I possibly can. Zemus is a tough fight. If we were to move him somewhere else, it would be pretty bad. So we just decided to randomize the sprites, and there is a lot of sprites that are in there. The last number I heard was like around 6,000, somewhere around there. But the most important question, and the most important question that the game has here, and from us here in the booth, is whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's all those Z flags. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight for Zemus? It's about 600. It's not quite 6,000. I don't want to. I mean, we have some fantastic community managers who have submitted all kinds of different sprites, but I don't think we've quite hit the 1,000 mark yet. So
I meant to say 600, not 6,000. The last time I remember was like 600. I misspoke when I said 6,000 there. So yeah, and also we have some of the other questions like, does the butt have a hat? Is it cute? Does it even have one? Is it Turing complete? So on and so forth. There's a lot of questions, so little time. We already have Zemus on the screen right now. He's shaking. We have a crystal that we're gonna throw. We'll find out what the sprite is in just a few minutes, or just a few moments rather.
Yep, we shall see. We have our crystal that goes out, and the rest of the the fight. Kyrios is set up well. Double white mage with 3 Zerkers, Yang, Cecil, and a Spoonword. Garen is going to have more hybrid strats. He was through that fight very quickly, and it's Lobstermus. Nice.
As a former FF1 player, that scares me.
Well, it's supposed to be scary. You're fighting the end boss.
Yeah, look, if someone has suffered enough cracking deaths on Sea Shrine before, this doesn't help matters.
All right, so we did get a slow out on the Lobstermus. He did counter with a nuke, nerfed the first Big Bang, but unfortunately that Spoonword hit that counter nuke. So we are going to be trying to get Edward back up and zerked. Meanwhile, though, Garen does finish the Baron basement fight. If he completes the regular Baron throne, he'll be in go mode at this point.
Yes, and because that will lead to that Twin Harp, which is necessary for the 6 objectives to be completed. Kyrios is still having to fight this Zemus. It's going to take a Big Bang here.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think it's worth trying to keep the Eddie up. You got 2 strong swingers. You got Rosa and a couple party members who can survive Big Bangs on their own. You just have to make sure you recast the Zerk on Yang, and we're set. This is a very stable fight at this point in time for Kyrios.
Yes, and so this will. At this point, we're just at any given point, Kyrios will have to. Anytime Kyrios will try and. It looks like Kyrios is actually going to try and set up for doing a Big Bang nerf using slow. Does a reflected slow.
That did not hit within the time frame to nerf the Big Bang. Unfortunately, I think this is gonna. Yeah.
That's fine. We still have Cure 4 on standby, so it won't be that bad. Although Porn does fall.
Oh, there's Virus. We're still in phase 1 over here. Okay, we got to be close to pushing the second phase, though. And I think this is what we were talking about earlier, where we said, Zemus is not a gimme fight in these flag sets. You have an agility anchor situation where you can't manipulate it very well, so you got Big Bangs coming out probably faster than you'd like. You didn't really have the ability. I mean, you threw one slow, but having a little bit of difficulty keeping everyone up. And there's another Big Bang, so you really have to focus on it. The hard part is going to be seeing if we can survive a wombo combo there once we get past phase 2 and push into phase 3, where if we have a Big Bang queued up and then we immediately have a Meteor that follows afterwards, that can be devastating for a party right in these level ranges.
Right, so at this point, Rose is gonna go and recast that Berserk onto Yang after the Black Hole cast. So, Cecil will take a nuke here. Still can take it pretty well since it's if Cecil only sitting at a cool 3,400 HP. It's back to waiting for the Big Bang cast to come through for a Cure forecast. Garen on the doing the twin harp. There's Medio coming out from Curios. We have rocks.
We have rocks. He had the cure out there, so did not get womboed.
Another Medio coming out from Zemus. This one should do it. And that's it.
And that's it. GG's to Curios. Does finish in third place in the community race with a final time of 1:39.08. Shout out to our two community members who did finish ahead of him. Deckheart Smash at 1:31.02 and Microcorgs at 1:36.55. Very, very close race. But GG's to Curios, who does finish first on the restream.
It was fairly close up in around the mid right after the match giant grinds, and it was just a matter of Curios making the statistically correct call of heading back down to the blue planet and just stopping this moon play earlier at 2 checks remaining. After that, and with Garen sticking with the more safer bet of just staying on the moon until everything's all cleared out before heading back down to the blue planet, and Curios ended up having the right call, finding the Baron key off of the rat tail, which led back to the twin harp on the Baron key on the Baron throne, and that was enough to land the first place in the restream.
And we are now joined in the booth by our winner on stream, Curios. GG's, man.
Thank you very much.
So that was just a really interesting race, and I think I know the folks in the community have been talking about the Mac Giant grind as kind of the go-to grind for this particular flag setup, and I think you highlighted it as to why it's the key setup in this race. Do you want to walk me through kind of your thoughts and how things were setting up originally?
Yeah, I mean, for the Giant grind, it was a little late, but I think it's still, with the 3 moon objectives, it was a good way to just pivot into all those. Now, as it turns out, I suspect that the correct thing might have actually been skip the Giant entirely and find a way to get through some of the other moon stuff and just continue the chain. But it's a pretty safe option in that if it's not the best, it's not going to be worse by a lot. I mean, mine was pretty choppy. I lost several minutes there. I've practiced it a bunch of different ways, but not with quite this party. And it still, I think, turned out kind of fine.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that decision? You had cleared out Crystal. I mean, you'd done the objectives on the moon, then you cleared out Ribbon Room and Masa Altar. and there were two objectives left on the moon, Mura and K Value, but you opted to you decided to start chasing the objectives that you ended up getting. What drove you to that decision instead of full clearing the moon, which I think would be the more traditional route that runners go?
Definitely. Part of it is I wanted to do the full bottom because I didn't want to be running back down. I mean, we've had the pass forever, so that's just get that out of the way. The hook was a little tempting with the rat tail. The tower key was really what did it, because once I have that, I have rat tail turning into full tower, into a what I know is a water hag and another not that bad boss sitting there in the Fey March. So I have so many checks that are going to be relatively quick at that point. The moon has already given, I believe that was 3 key items with the spoon, so I'm not as concerned about Mira. K value is kind of a whatever. Those are both also easy to come back to if they do end up being required. So I just felt like it had shifted to a point where the odds were pretty good that I would find enough to complete the game back on the planet.
Yeah, and it ended up being the right call. I think the only things that we ended up getting from that particular spots, I think we got a power shirt from Mura. I don't even remember what we got from K Value, honestly. We did see Garen on stream complete it. Oh, Pinktail, which led to an X-Cal. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, X-Cal would have been nice, especially with the Z fight starting with Eddie immediately eating the counter nuke as is his bound.
Do you also want to talk about the decision? There came an inflection point when you were on Earth Crystal, and we saw some kind of party divergence here. You opted to keep your young, you ditched Sid at some point, and also I think there was a Palom that was available somewhere along the route that you decided, I don't necessarily need a Black Mage right now. Can you kind of walk me through your party composition and the decisions that you made through that? Because we saw some interesting choices on stream.
Yeah, so I don't think I saw the Palom. I suspect that was Dwarf, if Garen did that. The Sid thing to me is pretty easy. I mean, even if you don't already have 2 Pet Claws in hand, which we did from the Underground, I love Sid. Sid was great early on in this seed with that first Baron in thing, but with a fast tanker, Sid isn't really a character. I'm sorry to all the people out there who love him. By the end of the game, unless you are lucky enough to find an Artie bow, which is somewhat difficult on these treasure settings, he's just not going to be taking turns, and Yang gets to take turns and hit pretty hard. So I'm going to take that all the time on these flags, unless you have a slow hero.
Yeah, and I think that ended up proving to be correct as the rest of the seed played out. Just overall, just a otherwise fantastic race. Did anything else stand out to you as you were going through, like you said, that decision to jump back to the blue planet? You and Garen were kind of neck and neck. He was only about 1 check behind you when you were going through everything, and then you opted to go back, and that was kind of the big difference, at least on stream. But did anything else feel like you made key decisions at certain points, or you want to point anything out that maybe we missed along the way?
I mean, I'm a runner. I am critical of myself, right? So when I'm looking back at the seed, I'm like, I wasted 90 seconds to 2 minutes by not just immediately resetting out of Baron in and going to buy the Earth Armor right away. I wasted 2 or 3 minutes on that whatever was happening with my Mac Giant grind, and then I lost 2 or 3 minutes at least relatively outside of my control by exactly anything after New Fantasy. So in terms of versus some of the off-screen runners who also ran, I'm sure great races, like that's kind of where I'm looking, where did that time go? And that's how I look at it for myself.
Well, I mean, you still ran a fantastic race, and you keep on beating me in the tournament, so, you know.
I will say, decision-wise, the Zot one is interesting because I think a lot of people are going to fade Zot a lot of the time on these flags. And I think it's very reasonable on this. I just kind of wanted, knowing that I was about to go into the Mac Giant, I wanted another swing at those characters, plus something that other people might not do. I could see either way on that.
Well, either way, just GG's to you, and you ran a fantastic race. Thanks for putting on such a great show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the stream team. Looks like Garen just finished up as well, so Hope you all have a great night.
Yeah, you have a good night as well. And yeah, Kieran has taken down Zemus, finishing 6th overall with a 147.15, coming in 2nd on the restream overall.
Yeah, worth pointing out that we had 3 finishers, Matic 35, Scarsfer, and Garen at 147.09, 147.12, and 147.15. Just boom, boom, boom. So the dreaded T word is being thrown around in the Discord. It's not a tie, no, but you know, they were close.
And we are joined by Garen. GG's and congrats on completing this seed. We are joined.
Oh, thank you. That was quite the world tour, wasn't it?
As it typically is in these seeds. I don't know if I've run one that hasn't been close to 17 to 17 yet.
Yeah, I mean 15 to 17. So yeah, the joke would be if that adamant is sitting at the Luca cave.
We didn't get to see it, so you're gonna have to tell us as your screen scrolls through where that adamant rock is, because that's about the only thing we don't know at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if that was a chain where you had to go to the moon for the Baron key into the basement, and then the throne, and harp, Luca cave, and then the adamant, yeah, that would be kind of nasty.
I wanted to give you a couple shout outs because you know there's a few things that I thought you did exceptionally well. You and Garen were pretty close when you started your Mac Giant grind. I think you had done Dwarf Castle and he hadn't done it, so you were a little bit behind. The way you set up your giant grind, though, you didn't use a step manipulation, so it took you a little bit to get things set up. Once you were in there, though, doing the blink strats and just letting your Zerkers go to town, that was something I hadn't seen before, and it really, I think, cut a lot of time out of that grind. But where did you come up with that? Did you see it from someone else? And either way, just compliments on it, because that was really kind of neat tech that you showed off there.
I have seen it before. I don't know who exactly, but I mean, it is a strat I've heard about in this flag set. It's like, that makes sense. Cecil's not the fastest, so that's reasonably able to do it with the Rosa sitting there. Of course, he was getting a little bit nasty with hitting the Searcher a few too many times, but, you know, it didn't kill it, so that's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because Kyrios did do a setup for manipulating the steps to get the Mac Giant grind well, whereas Garen end up going for it. Is it something that is it because is there no I'm sorry, I can't think.
Are you asking why I choose not to set it up?
Yeah.
I know it only has about a 50% success rate from the table, so I'm just taking the gamble that it's going to take me fewer tries to get it randomly than to set it up. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes, like tonight, it does not work out too well. Usually I don't get bonked from the enemies, but my agility or something must not have been quite right for it tonight. I've never gotten bonked so many times. Maybe I'll have to consider trying it next time, but I don't tend to set up the manipulation because I figure most times in a minute or two I'll get it anyways.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment, if anything. So, not to say that it was a bad choice by all things considered. Just interesting to see different takes on doing the Mac Giant grind, whether it's being just setting up the manipulation or just going for it. Yeah.
I was gonna say the other thing
the adamant rock on the screen. It's up behind the tower key, which was also on the moon, I think.
Yep. I think you guys got the tower key out of Ribbon Room, maybe.
Sounds about right. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
The other thing that I know gave my heart pause through the whole thing was that wonderful wyvern in the Ordeals closet. Made my heart stop a little bit. And then he cast Glare.
Yeah, I was wondering about it too. It's like, that would be kind of rude. I have to drop Cecil if that's the case. At least there wasn't any key item there, but that turns out, oh, only 100 points. I can live with that.
Yeah, I think with that Cecil, everyone eventually ended up doing that. So everyone had a small heart attack at some point this evening. Just.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to comment on, really. But congratulations once again, and ran a good race, and hope to see you in the ZZ6 tournament.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I'll be joining it as long as life doesn't take any weird turns. And yeah, it was fun. I'm not unhappy with the result. Yeah, just a couple silly mistakes early on there. That dwarf castle was a little bit sloppy, but we'll get it next time.
Absolutely. You ran a fantastic race. It was close. It just, it came down to, I think, Kyrios zigged when you zagged. And that, I mean, Rando's going to Rando. And that's the case for this seed overall.
Yeah, if I got left the moon a little bit earlier, which I think I could have, that might have been a little bit closer then. But, I've been burned by the moon a couple times too. It's like, already here. Might as well clear it out. Wasn't the right play this time.
Absolutely. Well, either ways, GG's to you, Garen, and have a good rest of your night.
All right. Good night.
And with that, that will do it for those of us here at the Free Enterprise community. Want to give one last shout out to, of course, everyone on the team behind the scenes, Neo Bari for the wonderful restream work, Zaldi for the tracking work, and of course, my wonderful co-commentator, Professor Renderer. I always have a blast working with you. Tonight was no exception, man.
I mean, it's all, no matter where what the game is or whatever we're doing, no matter what the state is, no matter what, it's always a good time having you on the mic with me, and and hopefully we'll see that happen as we enter ZZ6, and again, this is only race 1 of our on-ramp to the Zemus zone, so we'll have more of these coming up, but yeah, once again, it was a great having you as well, and yeah.
And of course, remember, our next community race is going to be this Thursday at midnight Eastern. So if you haven't already, go ahead, join us over on our Discord. We would love to have you join the community, join the Restream team, or just kind of hang out, because we're kind of a super cool community that's out there on the internet. Otherwise, for those of us here at the Free Enterprise community, we'll see you all at the next race, and have a good rest of your night.
Take it easy.